It's not hyperbole when I tell you that the Eternal Castle has one of the best video game trailers I've ever seen. From the moment I glimpsed the gorgeous pixel graphics and the cinematic style, I was in love. And the fact that this so-called remake is also a love letter to games like Another World and Flashback only made me want it more. But sometimes you'll run into a trailer that's so good that it's nearly impossible for the game to live up to the hype. That's one of the many problems with the Eternal Castle, an intriguing adventure game that falls way short of the excellent trailer. Don't let the title fool you, this is not a traditional remaster. The developers would like you to believe that this is something of a remake of an influential 1987 game with a complicated past, but don't believe their lies. The Eternal Castle Remastered is a brand new adventure that mimics the rotoscope boom of the late 20th century, right down to the striking animation, limited color palette, and stiff controls. Set in the distant future, when the last remaining humans have been forced to flee the planet they once called home, this game tells the intriguing story of what happens when a survivor returns to check up on things. You see, there's concern that the last group of humans to visit Earth haven't been heard from since, and those left scavenging for resources are faring the worst. But things get hairy when our hero is shot out of the sky and forced to find the missing parts of their ship. The goal is to put the ship back together and find our way to the Eternal Castle, where the truth will be revealed. The good news is that you can explore the stages in any order. Your journey will take you to the Forgotten City, the Unholy Church, and the Ancient Ruins, all of which are filled with unique enemies and elements you won't find anywhere else. One part of the map will have you surviving an all-out battle to overtake the planet, while another section will have you sneaking through office buildings. You'll race after bad guys while leaping off of cliffs and flee for your life while a giant boulder chases after you. The Eternal Castle is a game about incredible moments, and every one of these stages is packed with them. Now, I have a hunch that it's going to be these moments that I remember when I think back about the game in years to come. What I hope to forget is how much I hated playing the Eternal Castle. This is a broken experience that actively works against you at every step of the way. From the game-breaking bugs, to the rampant sound problems, to the nightmarish gameplay, this game is a relentless assault of bad things getting in the way of the incredible moments. Now let's start with the gameplay. Like I said at the top, this is a love letter to the classic rotoscope adventure games of the 1980s and 90s, most of which were notorious for being sluggish and hard to control. I went in expecting this to be the case with the Eternal Castle, figuring that I would have no problem getting used to the handling. After all, I love Flashback, Prince of Persia, and other classics with similar gameplay, so how hard could it possibly be? As it turns out, it's really hard. The Eternal Castle is a nightmare to control, even compared to similar games. Little things like climbing down ledges, picking up items, walking through doors, and jumping over pits are often complicated by unreliable controls. And things only get worse when the game turns into a beat-em-up and forces you to fight off hordes of enemies with a hatchet. The gameplay is sloppy in the worst ways possible, and just not built for most of the tasks you need to do. Look, I get it, the nightmarish gameplay is just part of the charm for a lot of people, but that's not true when it comes to the never-ending string of bugs and glitches. The Switch port I played is filled with problems, but I'm only going to focus on two of the most egregious issues. The first is that our hero has this bad habit of refusing to move. I don't mean that they get stuck on a stray pixel or incapacitated by an enemy, but rather that they just stand in one place. It's almost as if the controller's turned off, but it's not, and I'm still able to pause the game and do everything else. And then, just like that, we're back in control. If there's a reason that this keeps happening, then it's just never explained visually. Now, that's annoying, but nothing compared to the way the game seems to forget what checkpoint you activated. In theory, you're supposed to go back to the nearest checkpoint when you die. I mean, that's how they work. But not here, because you're never really sure where you're gonna end up when you respawn. Sometimes you'll go to the right spot, while other times you'll get spit out 2 or 3 checkpoints ago. Hell, there were times when I would alternate between respawning at the nearest checkpoint and just starting back at the beginning. And that's assuming that it actually sends you somewhere. Too many times you'll go to a random room and not even spawn, sending you on this weird loop where the continue screen keeps coming up. There were multiple times when I wondered if I was even going to be able to finish the game. It's that buggy. Unfortunately, the problems don't end with the unreliable checkpoints and unresponsive gameplay, because the music is also choppy and hard to listen to. It's as if the soundtrack didn't export properly or is having buffering issues, because it always seems to stop and stutter from start to finish. It got to the point where I had to mute large portions of this game, which is never a good sign. And it doesn't end with the sound, because there are times when the visuals can be a bit too much. I don't have sensitive eyes and normally have no problems dealing with strobing, but there's this extended nightclub fight that gave me a real headache. Ugh, the fact that it's right after a checkpoint and I had to replay it a few times certainly didn't help. Look, this is not the reaction I expected after watching the amazing trailer. I couldn't wait to see all the incredible moments in context and understand how they fit together. But in the end, I couldn't wait to stop playing it. The frustrating gameplay and random glitches ultimately overshadow everything that I like about this 3-hour adventure. If somebody wants to cut together a cinematic video showing all of the best parts, I'll gladly watch it. But when it comes right down to it, I doubt I'll ever choose to play this game again. Even as a massive fan of Flashback, Another World, and countless other rotoscope adventure games, I had a hard time enjoying the Eternal Castle Remastered. When you're not fighting the controls, you'll spend most of the time dealing with glitches, audio problems, and some of the worst brawling since Karateka. It may have given the world one of the greatest video game trailers of all time, but the Eternal Castle is a mess of a game on Switch that I can't in good conscience recommend. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite video game trailer? Let me see your picks in the comments below. So I noticed that this game has near universal positive reviews over on Steam, which makes me wonder if the PC version is just substantially better or if I'm way out on my own on this one. Ooh, I guess the comments will let me know. On another note, we'll be back on Sunday with a new episode of Defunct Games News, followed on Monday with a new episode of Game Over. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.